One. Erev Tov, everyone. It is. Let me turn that down a little bit. There we go. It is Tuesday night. It is. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora and in Canada. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset, therefore, this must be the Rabbis Discuss. Whatever it is the rabbis decide to discuss. And we are going to, this evening, do a update on the war with Israel and Hamas. And then we're going to go into anti-Semitism around the world. This sudden rise, and I actually have a comment about that, but a sudden rise. I mean, this is not like the last 3 weeks where we actually did a cold opening to warn people because we were dealing with really sensitive information and information that would be very upsetting to some people. So tonight, not so much. So let's see who we have in the chat room. We have Crystal, we have Mendel, and we have Marilyn and Rabbi Wyckoff. And Rabbi Wyckoff, I just want to let you know I am not ignoring you. My son and his wife had a baby boy this morning. And I've been kind of busy, calling relatives and bragging and all that other stuff. And that's why I wasn't able to take your call, because I was on the phone with relatives when you did call. So joining me this evening, as usual, is Rabbi Ancel. Rabbi Ancel, you are on.
Good evening, everybody, and shalom. Welcome. Welcome, Rabbi.
Yeah, Rabbi Wyckoff, yeah.
Rabbi Wyckoff, I like his comments. He writes some really nice comments, which make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Okay, so shall we jump right into it?
Both feet.
Okay, so let's see what's going on in Israel with the war first. We'll get that taken care of first. And then we'll go into this the whole realm of anti-Semitism around the world and what's going on there. So our first article here comes to us from Aryel. It was published on the 19th, which was today. And let's see. Looks like it is a staff piece. The title is Investigation. Noah Argamani may have been abducted by Gaza civilians, not Hamas. So we keep talking, we keep hearing about this whole thing about innocent Palestinians in Gaza. And we keep finding out more and more they ain't so innocent. Okay, so The article goes on to say, while dozens of hostages were freed by Hamas terrorist organization during the November ceasefire deal, mostly women and children, one well-known hostage was not among them. On October 7th, a video was published of Noah Argamani, and I apologize if I have the name wrong, 26, and her partner, Ibn Atan, or being kidnapped from the Nova Music Festival. In the video, Noah could be seen screaming in terror and reaching for her partner as she was driven away on the back of a motorcycle. According to an investigation by NBC News, of all people, the reason Noah was not included among the hostages released last month may be that she was never in Hamas captivity, but was instead kidnapped by a mob of Gaza citizens who accompanied the Hamas terrorists across the border and took part in the atrocities of October 7th. Again, like I said, this whole thing about innocent Palestinians is not so accurate.
But they're the ones who voted in Hamas, so they're not innocent at all.
Yeah. Rabbi Wyckoff put in the chat room, everyone here needs to read Gary Wexler's article in the Jerusalem Journal called The Inside Story, How the Palestinians Took Over the World. Interesting. That sounds familiar. Anyway, the conclusion was based on analysis of text messages, phone records, satellite images, and human sources from the scene, as well as the position of the sun in the videos of the kidnapping. Other possible explanations given for Noah's continued captivity are Hamas's refusal to release the final 19 women being held in Gaza and the possibility that several hostages have been killed in Israeli airstrikes in Gaza, which I am, come on. Seriously, NBC? Really? You're going to play that card? Hamas used the excuse that others have been holding certain captives to explain why certain hostages have not been released. For example, Hamas has claimed that to have handed over the Bibas family, including 4-year-old Aryel and 11-month-old Kafir, and the youngest hostage, and to another terrorist organization to explain why Bibas' children have not been released. Hamas later claimed, without offering any evidence or proof, that the Bibas children and their mother surely were killed in Israeli airstrikes. In late November, Leora Argamani, Noah's mother, published a video begging to see her daughter one last time due to her terminal illness. And it goes on to say what she said. But again, we're finding out that, these innocent... and we keep finding this out week after week after week. We still find out that the citizens of Gaza were basically taking very active parts in these attacks and the holding of hostages and otherwise. Okay, going again to Arutz Sheva. This came out this morning, and surprisingly enough, the Western media, at least, Newsmax. At least Newsmax picked this up and did a report on it today. I'm not really sure about the rest of the legacy media. And the article was, again, published today. Gaza family, again, from Arutz Sheva, Israel National News. Gaza hospital director describes how Hamas uses hospitals for military purposes. Ahmed Kihiot, director of the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Jabalia, details how Hamas had private ambulances and phones in the hospital. So Ahmed Khalot, the director of the Kamal Adwan Hospital in Jabalia, Gaza, confessed to the Shin Bet and that the Hamas terrorist organization used his hospital as a military facility. We know this well. During his interrogation, Khalot described how Hamas uses hospital for military purposes, including hiding its operatives, carrying out military activity, moving around Hamas members, and even bringing a captured soldier to the hospital. They hid in hospitals because, for them, hospitals are a safe place. They won't be targeted when they are inside a hospital, he said. He said that he was recruited into Hamas terrorist organization. This is a doctor, director of a hospital. He was recruited into the Hamas terror organization in 2010. I know 16 employees in the hospital, doctors, nurses, paramedics, or clerks who have different positions in Al-Qassam. There are offices where the Hamas leaders and two of his senior officers were. There's a place where the soldier was in, the kidnapped soldier. There's a place for the interrogators, internal security, and special security. All of them have private telephone lines inside the hospital. He added, they, Hamas, have a private ambulance. Now, this is something Israel has been talking about for a while. And the rest of the Western media and the rest of the liberals have basically ignored it or have said, oh, that is not true. That's not true.
Okay.
They have their own ambulances, and they use those ambulances not for ambulances. They use it to move their people around, and they use it to move weapons and rockets into place. This has been known for a long time. There's been a lot of film on it by the IDF, but nobody seems to want to believe it in the West, at least among the legacy media. They used it to transport the soldier, the kidnapped one, and transport bodies. It didn't assist us with transporting the injured. I begged him to take someone to the Indonesian hospital, take to Shifa Hospital, but he would refuse. His mission was more important. Kaholo criticized Hamas' use of his and other hospitals for their own purposes. The leaders of Hamas are cowards, he says. They left us in the field while they hid in secret places. They have destroyed us, he said. So even with Hamas, within Hamas's organization, their support is waning. What can I say? Rabbi Wyckoff, thank you very much for the muzzle tov. Thank you very much. I will pass it on to my son and his wife. Okay, Marilyn says that she also heard about this on Fox. Okay, Rabbi Wyckoff says, and he would know this, Spielberg has announced a new project documenting the horrors of the Hamas massacre. That is going to be a heartbreaker. So going on, and again, the poor Palestinians and Hamas, and they're being so oppressed and everything. 5 million shekels, or $1 million.
Yeah, they found the cash.
Found in senior Hamas member's home. Okay, this comes from I-24. And this was published on the 18th, yesterday. According to the defense minister, the funds recovered included Iraqi and Jordanian dinars as well as U.S. dollars. The Israel Defense Forces uncovered a substantial amount of cash and an array of weapons during a raid in Jabalia, again, home of an unnamed senior member of the Hamas terror group. 2 suitcases containing around 5 million shekels, over $1 million, were seized, making the largest sum found in Gaza, in the Gaza Strip, since the ground incursion began. The IDF, withholding the identity of the Hamas member, revealed that in addition to the cash, troops discovered various weapons in the senior member's residence. The sum of money discovered in this operation alone equals the total amount found by IDF in Gaza during the first month of the war. This is in just one Hamas leader's homes. There was a posting on X, formerly Twitter, by Yosef Haddad, which goes on to say, it doesn't have a date on it, but the post was, at the time when most of the residents of Gaza don't have enough money to buy even minimal food, 5 million nis, or shekels, cash was found in the house of a senior Hamas official. Hamas doesn't care about the residents and doesn't care about Gaza. They use the civilians as tools. So the article goes on. According to the Defense Ministry, the funds recovered included Iraqi and Jordanian dinars as well as U.S. dollars found in Hamas strongholds and the homes of wanted terrorists. The revelation of substantial cash holdings in Gaza has raised questions about the funding sources of the terrorist group, contributing to its ability to increase strength and execute acts such as the October 7th massacre. Adding to the intrigue, the New York Times recently published an investigative report asserting that Israeli intelligence possessed secret documents outlining Hamas assets valued in the millions of dollars since 2018. The report claimed that despite being aware of this information, the Israeli government did not take action. I don't know what action they expected them to actually take. I mean, up until October 7th, Israel wasn't even in Gaza.
Everybody's
New York
expert.
Times, pull your head out of your butts. What were you going to say?
So everybody's an expert what to do, what Israel should do.
Yeah, they're not there. They don't have to deal with it. They don't have to run for shelters every single day, multiple times a day, but they know all about what they should be doing.
That is true.
Yeah. This next one, it's an interesting one. This comes from, comes from a new, it's not an actually legacy media either. It's a business journal. It is called Business Insider. This is from their site. This came out, it was published on December 13th, 2023, by Joshua Zitzer. Okay. I found that out today, that Zitzer is actually a Hebrew kind of contraction of Alexander, which was a very popular name for Jewish boys and girls during the reign of Alexander the Great because of the way he treated the Jews so well. Anyway, Joshua Zitzer wrote this article. It's called "Israel is Said to be Flooding Hamas Tunnels," a tactic Egypt already used in 2013, but with sewage. Okay, so everybody is screaming and crying about Israel flooding the tunnels. Okay, but they had nothing to say about when Egypt did it. So, Israel is pumping seawater into Hamas networks and underground tunnels. This was per the Wall Street Journal. We covered this. We talked about this last Tuesday, that it was unconfirmed. It has been confirmed since then. It's not a new idea. In 2013, Egypt flooded tunnels connecting Gaza to the Sinai, but with sewage. 2 years later, Egypt pumped salt water or seawater hoping to stop the movement of weapons and fighters. So Israel is said to be pumping seawater into the underground network of Hamas tunnels in Gaza. Now that's actually quite a smart move, especially seawater. Seawater is extremely caustic, especially with concrete. Especially, I mean, the concrete that Hamas is using in those tunnels is not hydraulic cement. It is just basically regular building concrete, which is very susceptible to. Richard has joined us. Good to see you, Richard. It has been a while. Well, not too much of a while, but it's always good to see you. Richard Ruttenberg is the one who does a lot of our lead-in music and graciously allows us to use it, and we are very honored to have the maestro's presence here today.
He's the best.
Pardon?
He's the best.
He is. He really is. Okay, so, that's seawater. Seawater being very caustic on concrete, especially if it's actually if they actually did use rebar in there, which I kind of doubt that they did, but if they did use rebar, that's even more so. And we have seen examples of that. I mean, all you got to do is go to the island out in the middle of the San Francisco Bay and see the deterioration there just from the sea air. Not just not the water. I mean, just the moisture in the air from the ocean. But again, if they're pumping it into the Hamas tunnels, it's going to undermine them really quick. Seawater coming in contact with rebar will cause the rebar to expand 3 times its diameter in a very short period of time. Well, when you expand steel like that, which is encased in concrete, guess what's going to happen to the concrete? It's going to crack. It's going to fail. It cracks. It allows more seawater to get in, and it's just it just continues to go on. So it's actually a fairly smart idea to use seawater. But anyway, back to the article. The tactic may sound shocking, but it isn't new. Egypt did the same thing at least twice, one using sewage instead of water. According to the Wall Street Journal, again, Israel on Tuesday began flooding the approximately 300-mile-long tunnels with water from the Mediterranean Sea. Plenty of water there. Its aim appears to be to force Hamas fighters in the tunnels to leave, where Israel can attack them. Israel believes the tunnel system, nicknamed the Metro, is used to transport. They've been calling it the Metro for many years. Israel has. Is used to transport weapons and fighters into Israeli territory. The Israeli Defense Forces declined to comment when Business Insider asked whether the flooding of the tunnels or whether it was flooding the tunnels. They still have not actually come right out and said that. A video did come out showing that. They said that they were testing the idea. But this is war. They're not going to admit to a lot of things. They're not going to tip their hand. Anyway, Betty, Business Insiders asked while the tunnels are flooding. But the tactic has a history. Egypt, which borders Gaza to the west, had a similar plan in 2013. It flooded smuggling tunnels connecting Gaza to Sinai, the Sinai Peninsula, using foul-smelling wastewater. Mohamed Morsi, Egypt's president at the time, wanted to shut the tunnels to block the flow of weapons and militants from Gaza to Sinai, where the insurgency was underway. New York Times report said that. And that's a thing that people are kind of wondering, but nobody is actually talking about it. These Palestinians, supposed Palestinians, are trying to get into Egypt, and Egypt is refusing to let them in. And I saw a report somebody put out saying that depending on the last name, they know exactly where these families came from, just by their last name. They know either they came from Egypt, like Nasser Arafat, Yasser Arafat, Egyptian. His last name is a tribe that is in Egypt. Others in Morocco and Damascus and stuff like that. So they know, just from the names, they know whether they're Egyptian or not. And why isn't Egypt letting these fellow Arabs in?
They don't want them.
That's right. They don't want them because they know they're a problem. They're problem children. They are just going to come into Egypt and they're going to start issues.
And the other thing is, Egypt is a very, very poor country. They can't afford to take them in. These people don't want to work. They want everything for free. So Egypt says, no way.
Well, the other thing is that Hamas is part of the Muslim Brotherhood, right? Now we
Correct.
learned this on our first broadcast when we were talking about the history of Hamas, and they are part of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is illegal in Egypt.
It is.
It is a death sentence to be caught being a member of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Just because of what happened with all the problems that they've had and the assassination of Anwar Sadat, which was carried out by the Muslim Brotherhood and stuff. It has been illegal in Egypt since that time, and it has been a death sentence to be a member. So Hamas and their supposed Palestinian supporters, and again, last week we read the article about that. I just completely lost my train of thought here. What was I carrying on about? I get so caught up on this that.
Well, Egypt doesn't want to accept them.
Oh, that Egypt doesn't want to accept them because they're going to come in and they are going to cause problems. I'm kind of wondering why we don't want to execute them in Israel. Why don't we just send them to Egypt then? Let Egypt deal with them. Let's see in the chat room. In the chat room, Rabbi Wyckoff says, when Israel tried to give Gaza back to Egypt, they refused. Absolutely, they did. And to take it, saying that they did not want to be bothered with those people. Richard Ruttenberg says that the USA is delusional when they speak of a two-state solution. You do not reward the murderers who butchered all the neighbors on your street with a house next door. That's a very good point,
Definitely
Richard.
no solution.
Very good
But
point.
show me a country that wants them.
Jordan didn't want them. Jordan sent them out. Jordan gave them 48 hours to leave the country or they would kill them?
Yeah. People should pick up the book that's called Black September. They'll find out what the king that now Jordan, his father.
Yeah.
He killed 20,000 of them in 1 week. That's when the Allenby Bridge was built. And he said, you either leave or you're dead.
That's right.
So
he gave them like 48 hours to be out of the country. And Israel stupidly said, we'll take them in. Let's create our own problems. Okay, so the Egyptian military so I talked about that. It destroyed some 24 tunnels by flooding it with sewage. And they actually, the Egyptian military had previously tried pumping gas into the tunnels before switching to sewage. The Times said it destroyed some 24 tunnels in the end. A couple of years later, Egypt started flooding tunnels using seawater pumped from the Mediterranean Sea. Almost exactly what the Wall Street Journal said Israel is doing now. Egyptian officials.
The problem.
Pardon?
Here's the problem. If they're flooding the tunnels, they're going to say that Israel, by doing that, killed all the
Yeah,
hostages.
yeah. Egyptian,
That's going to be
well, I
their
mean,
excuse.
Israel has made the point that anything that happens to the hostages is on Hamas's head because they're not even allowing the Red Cross to see them.
But you know what the problem? The other problem is the rest of the world is not going to believe this. They're
Yeah,
going to say it's Israel's fault.
yeah, that's true.
That's the yeah.
The Egyptian officials confirmed to Al Jazeera that, and I actually had confirmed this on Al Jazeera's site. And again, Al Jazeera not being particularly known to be real friendly with Israel, but they actually had it on there, and they actually do some real journalism at times. Egyptian officials confirmed that to Al Jazeera that the water pumping was underway, saying the operation was aimed at ending smuggling activities. This was when Egypt was doing it. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi claimed the flooding of the tunnels was being carried out for security reasons. He said it was coordinated with the Palestinian Authority, the entity which governs the West Bank and used to run Gaza until Hamas took over. So basically, the PLO just wanted to get rid of Hamas so that they could take over, so they could be the terrorists in charge.
By the way, al-Sisi was re-elected as president of Egypt for 4 years.
Yeah. In a joint statement in September 2015, several Palestinian factions condemned the flooding. Big surprise. Raising concerns that it would destroy agricultural land. What agricultural land? Agricultural land
desert.
and pollute underground water reservoirs, according to the Middle East Monitor. They get all their water from Israel anyway. What are they complaining about? They have no agriculture. Similar concerns are being voiced now, with experts saying Israel's seawater tactic could exacerbate water pollution and cause environmental damage. That's the main thing that we want to be concerned with, is environmental damage when we're going after terrorists. The world just keeps getting stupider every day. It's like I get up every morning, I put my feet on the floor and I go, what damn stupid thing are they going to do today? In 2016, Egypt launched another flooding operation. Yuval Steinsaltz, an Israeli minister at the time, said that the flooding was partly due to Israel's request, describing that it was a good solution for tracking Hamas network tunnels. This time there was an extra risk to consider, whether the flooding may harm some of the 100 hostages taken by Hamas on October 7th, who are yet to be freed. In leaked audio recordings of meetings with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, freed hostages and the relatives of those still in captivity said they feared that their loved ones would be killed by a deluge of water, per the Israeli media outlet Ynet. Ynet's a good outlet. It's a good outlet. Good information there. The journal reported that the IDF is reluctant to send soldiers underground. Of course they are. Because of the risk of booby traps. I mean, any Vietnam veteran out there knows tunnel rats and what they had to go through and how dangerous it was. And so I can firmly believe that Israel is reluctant to send soldiers into the underground. It is too easy. It's too easy to get into a death zone. What was that?
I said most people don't realize there's 300 miles of twisted tunnels. It's not just like a small tunnel that's a few hundred feet. It's miles upon miles. It took years to build this.
Yeah.
The big tunnel that they just discovered, you can drive cars, trucks
through it. Instead, the paper said that the Army intends to use the flooding method along with airstrikes, explosives, and robot dogs and drones. Okay, now here's a really interesting one. Again, this one comes from I-24 News in Israel. This came out on the 18th. South Africa threatens citizens who join IDF with prosecution. South Africa needs prior government approval to legally fight. South Africans need prior government approval to legally fight in Israel, the foreign ministry noted. The South African government issued a stern warning on Monday that any of its citizens who travel to Israel to fight alongside the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza could face criminal prosecution upon returning home. The foreign ministry statement comes amid reports that some South Africans have enlisted with Israeli forces or are considering doing so to support the military campaign in Gaza. The government says says such action violates international law. South Africans need prior government approval to legally fight in Israel, the foreign ministry noted, adding that even naturalized citizens risk losing their nationality by partaking in a war the country adamantly opposes.
Who's South Africa?
Yeah. Tensions have escalated in Gaza since the ruling terrorist Hamas, and it goes on and so on and so forth. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa denounced the ongoing bloodshed as genocide on slaughter in a display of strong solidarity with Palestinians. The ruling ANC, and I want to tell you, you think Nelson Mandela was a hero? He was not. He was the head of the ANC. Find out, go look up and see what his wife did to opponents of the ANC while he was in prison. The ruling ANC, the African National Congress Party, frequently links the Gaza conflict to South Africa's own anti-apartheid struggle. Of all the crazy
People
BS,
don't want to hear the truth.
It just gets worse every day. I'm telling you. Okay, so that kind of brings us up to date. I mean, there's a lot more news coming out of Israel, but that'll bring us up to date on some of the more interesting aspects right now. If you want more information on what's going on day to day, go on to Facebook and find Gadi Edelman and friend him or follow him on Facebook. He gives at least 2 updates every day. He is boots on the ground in Israel. He has been to Gaza numerous times. He has been to Lebanon, up to the Lebanese border today. He was up there for a funeral for one of the soldiers that was killed. But he is on the ground there. He is in just outside of Tel Aviv, and he is giving reports every day about how many rocket attacks there have been, where they are coming from, some of the other news. So if you really want to keep up on that day to day, then go and follow him or friend him over on Facebook. Richard St. Gotti is a great guy. He is. He really is. He's a very good friend of our show. He's been on our show numerous times. Marshall says, or Mendel says that Gaza is supposedly cursed. Yes. That is true, and that goes that that curse actually predates Israel actually entering the land under Joshua.
It's a long-standing
It
curse.
is a very long-standing curse. The only reason that were the Philistines, or the Philistines, as the West would say it, had that land is because they needed a port into the Middle East from Greece. They were Greeks. They were not Palestinians. They were not Arabs. They were Greeks, and it was just it was a port. So, anyway, okay. So,
That's exactly what Putin is doing.
pardon?
That's exactly what the Russian do. Putin is doing with Ukraine, because he wants an exit he wants a port.
Oh yeah, he wants a port on the Black Sea.
Yep.
He needs to have a port on the Black Sea.
Otherwise, he's landlocked there.
Exactly. He has nothing for the North Atlantic Fleet.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's how one of the main reasons they've always been after the Ukraine is well, even when before the war, Russia did have a port there that they controlled, but it was a very narrow strip of land along the Black Sea there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the rise of anti-Semitism worldwide, and I'm gonna make this statement. I made this statement a lot, many times before. I'm sure some of you in the chat room are probably really sick of hearing it, but I'm gonna say it again anyway. Anti-Semitism is not on the rise. It has always been there. It's just that now people are not afraid to say what they've been saying in public. So it's become politically correct to say it out loud now. So the first article that we have here this evening is from, I'll tell you what, let's do this. Let's take our break now. And then when we come back, we'll get into these, we're going to get into this. We're going to get into some statistics and some specific attacks and stuff. So let's go ahead and take our break now. And then when we return, we're about halfway right now anyway. So let's take our break. And when we return, we'll delve into this a little deeper. Rabbi Ancel, I'm going to turn you down here. And didn't even give him a chance to give the poor guy a chance to answer. Anyway, we're going to take our break, and we will be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
And we are back, and fortunately, we have Rabbi Craig Wyckoff with us now. Rabbi Wyckoff.
Hey, good evening, everybody. It was a really interesting first half.
Yeah, so you were saying you disagreed with what I said.
I definitely disagree. Your last statement was that you don't feel anti-Semitism has grown, that it's been there all along, and that people just now feel free to speak out.
Okay.
Well, I agree that it's been there all along and people feel free to speak out, but it has grown because we have so many new young anti-Semites. Do you realize that the Arab nations have donated over $50 billion to our universities to allow them to place professors in these schools that teach an agenda that is anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, to support their own pro Arab, pro-Palestine Israel as a apartheid country,
Occupier.
Occupier philosophy, and they're succeeding on our campuses.
Yes.
They're not only turning kids that are not Jewish, but they're turning some Jews into anti-Semites.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a scary thing when you look at this. They talked about in this article, this guy, I can't think of the guy's name. He turned out he was supposedly an Arabic PR guy who was actually working through Syria and PLO and Hamas. He talks about how Israel had their birthright trip, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Bringing young people over. Well, they started a whole program here in America to bring young people over to Gaza and to the West Bank to, again, teach them about how Israel is an occupier and show them how wonderful that they are as people and that Israel is really the real terrorist. And it's a scary thing that young people are being fed this, and young people being stupid believe this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's the scary part.
it is. So I
That-
do disagree that the numbers are the same, because there are far more anti-Semitic people in the world today than there were 20 years ago.
Well, you and I don't always agree on everything,
No.
but we stay friends.
Oh yeah. So wait, you're still going to hold fact that you don't think there are more?
No, I think you actually do have a point.
Oh, begrudgingly, thank you.
Yeah. Well, maybe not even begrudgingly, but
All right.
always open to
Well, we
new
can-
information. So
We can agree to disagree.
there you go. So let's jump into these articles now. Again, this one comes from the Jerusalem Post. Came out on this came out October 30th. Okay, so the war was fairly recent at that point, and the article is titled. It's by Zvika Klein. It's titled "Global Anti-Semitic Attacks Rise by 500% since last year." This is the World Zionist Organization reveals. So the article goes on to say, in the wake of recent Hamas massacre, a disconcerting report has been released revealing a 500% surge in anti-Semitic incidents globally, compared to the same time frame the previous year. This study, jointly conducted by the World Zionist Organization, the Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism Ministry, and the Jewish Agency, sheds light on the mounting challenges Jewish communities face amid escalating geopolitical tensions. Additionally, according to the report, online anti-Semitic discourse on selected social media platforms has witnessed a 400% uptick relative to the period before the war. However, it's not just the contemporary form of anti-Semitism that's concerning. The report reveals a surge in calls for the annihilation of Israel and direct threats to Jewish communities worldwide. Alarmingly, over the previous 2 weekends, the ISIS terrorist organization has made public calls for its followers to target Jewish establishments globally. Their directives range from attacks on Jewish neighborhoods in the USA and Europe, and committing arson and vandalism against synagogues, and even directed assaults on Jewish club patrons. The academic sphere hasn't been spared either. Campuses in the U.S., Australia, and South Africa have seen an increase in anti-Semitic incidents. An astounding 56% of Jewish students worldwide reported feeling fearful, while 67% expressed sadness due to the ongoing situation in Israel. Additionally, 25% of students reported encountering hate-driven activities and violence on their campus since the war's inception, and a worrying 58% claimed that they had received no support from their educational institutions, which we just saw in the congressional hearings. In the territories of the former Soviet Union, anti-Semitic and anti-Israel rhetoric has grown particularly aggressive, with many of the inflammatory statements emanating from notable public figures, propagandists, and those closely affiliated with the ruling elite in Russia and Belarus. 87% of Jews say they feel less safe. Feedback from numerous Jewish communities globally highlighted a significant drop in personal security sentiments. A staggering 87% of the respondents shared feelings of dismay, of diminished safety, accompanied by prevailing emotions of anger, anxiety, and shock. Raquel Baratz Ritz, head of the department, whoever that is, head of the Department for Combating Anti-Semitism and Enhancing Resilience at the World Zionist Organization, weighed in on the finding. The current levels of anti-Semitism are unparalleled in the past decade. The war is undeniably the chief catalyst. Why should this should be a wake-up call for those, both the state and its citizens. Among the same line, Avi Cohen Scali, the CEO of the Diaspora Affairs and Combating Anti-Semitism Ministry, added, We're witnessing an alarming wave of anti-Semitism in numerous countries, addressing the necessity a unified approach, bringing together government efforts and Jewish communities. It's an essential step towards effectively countering anti-Semitism and, more importantly, safeguarding Jewish lives. We are currently strategizing on actionable measures to address this pressing situation. Short but to the point. Okay, so this article comes from Voice of America, which is what did they used to call? Rabbi Craig, do you remember what they used to call that? It's where we used to broadcast into the communist countries.
Right. It wasn't called Voice of America.
No, it wasn't called Voice of America back then. It was I wish I could remember what they would call it. Anyway, it has evolved into now what is called the Voice of America. So this article, published on October 11th, I mean, this was like right after the massacre. It was written by Masood Favar. And it goes on to say, as the conflict between Israel and Hamas rages for another day, many Jews around the world face a familiar threat, a surge in anti-Semitism. From New York to London, St. Louis to Sydney, Jewish communities are grappling with hate and bigotry and often flare up whenever the Middle East erupts. Yes?
Rabbi, it's actually been called Voice of America since 1942.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
so I guess we were both wrong.
I guess, huh?
But I know what you're thinking. There was something else during Vietnam. I can't
Right.
remember but it was a different organization. I can't think of what it was called.
Yeah, I can't think of it either. I mean, anyway,
Yeah.
we'll have to sidebar that until next week, I guess. It's just a sad fact that whenever conflict arises between Israel and the Palestinians, Jews in all parts of the world will suffer some level of hate violence, said Heidi Berich, co-founder of Global Project Against Hate and Extremism. Israel plunged into a bloody nightmare Saturday when Hamas militants unleashed a surprising onslaught, killing at least 1,000 Israelis, wounding another 2,000, and taking some 150 hostage. Again, this came out just a few days afterwards. We know those numbers were much, much higher. Brian Levine, a prominent extremist researcher and professor emeritus at California State University, San Bernardino, said the carnage amount to the worst single-day slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. I think that's where all the news agencies picked up that phrase, because you hear it everywhere. U.S. President Joe Biden condemned the attack as an act of sheer evil. Israel's retaliatory airstrikes against targets in Gaza have been equally deadly, killing at least 1,000 Palestinians and leaving 5,000. And again, we talked about this last week. They tote these. They want to show some kind of equality between the Palestinians and the Israelis, and say, well, yeah, but you've killed 1,100 Palestinians and wounded 5,000 other. Where's the information coming from? It's coming from the Gaza Ministry of Health, which is run by Hamas. It's not like they have any reason to inflate the numbers. I mean, we talked about this last week, how one of the researchers actually looked at the numbers and said, this absolutely does not make sense. When you see that only women and children were being killed, no men, and the number of children being killed was far above the number of women being killed. It was ridiculous. What are they doing? Throwing the babies at them? Doesn't make any sense. Anti-Jewish threats on Telegram, a platform popular with Islamic State militants and white supremacists, surged by an alarming 488% in the first 18 hours of Saturday, according to the Anti-Defamation League, the oldest Jewish civil rights group in the United States. Offline, there have been sporadic reports of anti-Semitic incidents in Salt Lake City, Utah. A synagogue was forced to evacuate after receiving a bomb threat. Police are investigating the threats against a number of synagogues in the state. In St. Louis, Missouri, a swastika was spray painted on the side of a truck. Police said they were investigating as an act of anti-Semitic vandalism. And in London, a kosher restaurant was vandalized with the Golden Green in the Golden's Green section of the city. Mayor Sadiq Khan said there will be no tolerance for hate. The first days of the conflict saw a surge of over 300% in anti-Semitic incidents in the United Kingdom, according to Community Security Trust. Pro-Palestinian protesters around the world have sometimes taken on an anti-Jewish over. No kidding. You're just figuring this out? Have taken on an anti-Jewish overtone, according to extremist experts. In New York City, a protester attending a pro-Hamas rally on Sunday was seen brandishing a swastika, leading Mayor Eric Adams to condemn the protest. Actually, this is the first time Mayor Eric Adams actually said anything that I can agree with. He actually came out and made a very forceful statement. To his credit, I will give credit where credit's due. Okay, even if I don't like the guy politically, I'm going to stand with him on what he said. In Sydney, unverified footage distributed by Australian Jewish Association appeared to show a group of protesters outside the Sydney Opera House shouting, "Gas the Jews." Police are investigating the incident. Pro-Hamas rallies in the U.S. The American Jewish Committee said it had recorded about a dozen, again, remember, this is just days after the attack, a dozen pro-Hamas protests in several U.S. cities, including New York, Washington, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and Chicago. Holly Huffnagel, U.S. Director of Anti-Semitism at the AJC, said the Jewish advocacy group backs Palestinian rights, but warns that the protests extend from criticism of Israel to anti-Semitism and conspiracies about Jews. This is support for Hamas as a terrorist group, she said. Addressing a group of American Jewish leaders Wednesday afternoon, President Biden acknowledged the war in Israel has led to a rise in hate and anti-Semitism. Joined by the second gentleman, Doug Emhoff, who is Jewish and serves as the White House's point person on combating anti-Semitism. It's failing miserably. Biden said his administration was taking meaningful action to fight back against anti-Semitism. Okay, so this kind of goes on and on and on, foaming at the mouth and falling over backwards, as Monty Python would say.
You know, Rabbi,
Yes.
a week after the attacks, I received death threats.
You received death threats?
I did. I was asked by another rabbi to join him and speak at a program down in Orange County to give a background on the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And he was going to be my, obviously I can't drive. So
Right.
he was going to drive me. The night before the program, I get a call and he says, we're not going to go. And I said, why not? He said, because they received death threats saying that if we spoke, we would be killed. And I said, was that an angry Jew that said that? Making a joke.
Yeah.
Said, no, this is serious. They received actual death threats, so they've canceled it.
So there was an incident today, as a matter of fact. Again, this article comes from the Jerusalem Post. It was dated today. The incident actually happened today. I actually saw this reported on Newsmax today. New York City police tell Elie Wiesel to put away Israeli flag at anti-Israel protest. Police made several arrests at the protest, which began at Grand Central Station and continued into Penn Station, stopping along the way at the Port Authority bus terminal. This was written by the staff writers. Police in New York City insist that Elie Wiesel put away an Israeli flag on Tuesday as Wiesel's son of the late writer, Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel, attempted a counter-protest 100-strong pro-Palestinian demonstration in the city's Penn Station. Wiesel said on X, again formerly Twitter. The protest was organized by Within Our Lifetime, an activist group that has led near daily protests since October 7th, when Hamas attacked Israel's south, initiating the ongoing war between Israel and the terror group that has controlled Gaza since 2006. Actually, 2005, wasn't it? We actually pulled out in 2000. Oh, that's right. They pulled out in 2005, and Hamas was elected in 2006. Within Our Lifetime expressed support for the attack, defending whatever means necessary, with no exceptions and no fine print. Okay, so the group also organized a demonstration against the lighting of the Christmas tree in New York Rockefeller Center, calling the protest "Flood the Tree Lights." Flood the tree lighting for Gaza, invokes Hamas name for the October 7th attack, Operation Al-Aqsa Flood. New York Police Department insists I removed the flag, Wiesel wrote, as the situation was getting dangerous. He included a video in which he said he is seen draped in an Israeli flag, arguing with a masked demonstrator. Of course, they don't want their faces known. They don't want people to know who they are. They're cowards. Okay, so that let's get into a little more in depth into this. Okay, so I went to the Anti-Defamation League's site to get some data from them. And it was quite surprising. So since October 7th, Hamas massacre, again, this is from the ADL's website. It's dated the 11th of this month. Since the October 7th Hamas massacre of over 1,200 people in Israel, Hamas supporters and other anti-Semitic actors have threatened and targeted Jewish and Israeli individuals and institutions worldwide. Below is a selection of selected list of anti-Semitic incidents outside of Israel with an apparent connection to the events in Israel, as well as several country-specific statistics. You can also find a map of and there's a map of the incidents that you can click on their website. So, country statistics. Argentina. Since October 7th, there have been 231 reported anti-Semitic incidents. Australia. According to the Executive Council of Australian Jewelry, there has been a 591% increase in anti-Semitic incidents since October 7th. Austria. According to the Jewish community of Vienna, from October 7th to October 19th, there were 76 anti-Semitic incidents since October 7th, a 300% increase. Brazil. According to CONIB, which tracks anti-Semitism in Brazil, there have been 467 anti-Semitic incidents since October 7th, a 961% in comparison with the previous year. France, according to the Minister of Interior, since October 7th, there have been over 1,800 anti-Semitic incidents. Germany, according to RIAS, the NGO which records anti-Semitic incidents in Germany from October 7th to November 9th, there were 994 incidents, an average of 29 per day, a 320% increase compared to the rate of incidents in 2022. The Netherlands, according to Dutch NGO, this really kind of surprised me. According to the Dutch NGO Anti-Semitism Monitor, CIDI, from October 7th to November 6th, there have been an increase of 818 compared to the average 1 month period of the prior 3 years. South Africa, according to the South African Jewish Board of Deputies, there were 41 anti-Semitic incidents in the month of October, a significant increase compared to prior years. The UK, United Kingdom, according to the Jewish Communities Secretaries Organization, CST, from October 7th, there have been 2,093 anti-Semitic incidents across the UK, the highest ever total reported to CST across a 68-day period. So, we look at some of the specific incidents. France, Champagne-sur-Marne, I think. I know Marilyn is just cringing right now at my French. A man entered the office of a kindergarten director who is Jewish, brandished a knife, and said, "You're a Jew, you're a Zionist. 5 of us are going to rape you and cut you up like they did in Gaza." Warsaw, Poland. A far-right Polish lawmaker used a fire extinguisher on Hanukkah candles in Parliament. Vienna, Austria. Eggs were thrown at the apartment door of a 93-year-old Holocaust survivor, the only door in the building with a mezuzah. On the December 7th, Talca, Chile, a Hanukkah menorah was vandalized with the word "murderers." 12/6, Buenos Aires, Argentina. Bomb threats were emailed to the offices of the Jewish Communal Organization of the DAIA and AMIA. In 1994, 85 people were killed when terrorists backed by Hezbollah and the Iranian regime blew up the AMIA building. I remember that very clearly. I'm sure you do too. November 27th, Montreal, Canada. A Molotov cocktail was thrown at the Jewish Community Center. Also on the 27th of November, Genoa, Italy, a rabbi was threatened with a screwdriver by a man who shouted, "Go away, you dirty Zionist." I'm gonna stop giving the dates. Temuco, Chile. The Temuco synagogue, the oldest in the country, was vandalized with Nazi symbols and the phrase genocidal Zionist. Basel, Switzerland. Free Palestine and Zionism equals terrorism were painted on the Jewish cemetery. Helsinki, Finland. Men of Middle East background shouted death to Jews and Free Palestine outside the synagogue at a time when parents were picking up their children from the Jewish school inside. Vienna, Austria. Jews should die. And a swastika were written on flyers and of kidnapped Israelis. You know, the pictures of the ones that were being held hostage that have been around. Anyway, Slovenia. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that one. The entrance of the Jewish Community Center was spray painted with a Star of David equals swastika. Yerevan, Armenia. The Mordecai Navi Synagogue, which is the burial place of Mordecai and Esther, Queen Esther, was set on fire, causing minor damage. It's actually quite a beautiful building, actually. What a shame. I mean, it's been there for forever. Mexico City, Mexico. The restaurant Masala and Maze posted anti-Semitic slogans in their Instagram page. Brussels, Belgium. An optician chain owned by a French Jew was spray painted with Free Gaza, assassin, and complicit in genocide. Milan, Italy. The mezuzah was torn off the doorpost of a Jewish person's apartment with a knife, and a knife was stuck into the wood in its place. Lima, Peru. Anti-Semitic cartoons, including those with Nazi comparisons, were published in La Repubblica, a major newspaper in Peru. Montreal, Canada again. A Jewish school in Montreal was shot at. The second time in under a week, the school has been targeted with gunfire. Erfurt, Germany. Letters of solidarity with Israel that had been put up in the new synagogue were burned by two men from Libya. Barcelona, Spain. Hitler was right, was painted on the entrance of the public school where several Israeli families send their children. London, the UK. A demonstrator in an anti-Israel march yelled, "Hitler knew how to deal with these people." First of all, Germany, a Protestant church had put up a sign proclaiming, "We protect Jewish life," in a display case in front of the church. Vandals smashed the glass of the display case and removed the sign. London again, a woman at a small anti-Israeli protest inside Victoria Station shouted, "Death to all Jews." Melbourne, Australia. The anti-Israel demonstrators posted in a park across from the synagogue, and fights ensued with pro-Israel demonstrators. And it just goes on and on and on and on. Montreal, Canada again. Montreal, Canada again. Wow. Anyway, it goes on page after page after page after page. So I'm not going to go through all of these. You get the idea. Okay, I just wanted to hit some of the, that's another one of the, Okay, so Rabbi Wyckoff brought up an interesting point about. Now, what did I do here? I figure out what the heck I did here. Okay, let me just go back here for a second. There we go. Okay, talking about the colleges. Are you still with us, Rabbi Craig?
I am.
Is Rabbi Craig still with us? Let's find out.
Show that he is.
No, I don't think so. I think we lost him. Okay. Unfortunately, he must have had some. I know it's still early where he is, and he's still working. So, and we're just grateful that he was able to be with us for the short time that he is with us. So, this one comes from the Times of Israel. It was published on the 21st of November. It's an anti-Semitic incidents. Let me get this so that it's not going to mess with me here. Anti-Semitic incidents surged globally since October 7th, but most aren't reported. Here is why. Okay, this article was written by Matt Lebovich on the 21st of November. Up to 79% of anti-Semitic harassment is never divulged. Let me put that out. According to experts who weigh in on the obstacles that deter Jewish victims, especially youth, from speaking out. So again, remember these numbers that we were just talking about, anti-Semitic incidents that the ADL was reporting. Remember that most of them don't get reported. So John Michael Graves, 25, was walking out of his Moshe House residence in Seattle when he spotted half a dozen anti-Semitic flyers plastered onto a pole near an unmarked building, the unmarked building's gate. I ripped them down. It's not clear how they even knew it was the Moshe House, said Graves, referring to a cooperative group home for Jewish young adults. The flyers read, "F.U. Israel," with crossed-out Jewish stars that were affixed onto street poles during the afternoon of October 24th. It really hit me in the gut, Graves told the Times of Israel, but he and his fellow residents did not report the incident to the Moshe House movement, which says it reaches 70,000 Jews in 27 countries, including 6 locations in Israel. We were scared, and it sounds ironic now because this is going in a newspaper and more attention is being drawn to ourselves. I didn't want to make it a bigger deal than it was, said Graves. He is one of 4 residents of his Moshe House, which are generally populated by a mix of young professionals and grad students. We are programmed to think it's just some flyer, not an active death threat, said Graves, who added that Moshe House has been an incredible resource for himself and other residents regarding the Israel-Hamas war, as far as getting information, what he's talking about. When I saw the posters, I felt my hand grabbing at my Jewish star necklace, said Madison Holt, 23, another resident of Moshe House in Seattle. I couldn't decide if I wanted to hide my necklace or not. I have always felt safe living here, but this definitely was a wake-up call for how things have changed since October 7th, Holt told the Times of Israel. Since the unprecedented Hamas massacre of 1,200 people in Israel last month, and the taking of some 240 hostages, the Moshe House movement has provided new resources to its community buildings around the world, including access to emotional support services, Graves said. Might as well get a plug in while they're at it, right? I'm not going to deny him that. Now, 6 weeks after the eruption of the Israel-Hamas war on October 7th, world opinion has shifted away from recognizing and mourning these atrocities. The reluctance of Graves and Holt to report the incident of anti-Semitism is part of the widespread phenomenon, experts told the Times of Israel. Nearly 4 in 5 Jews who experience anti-Semitic harassment do not report it to law enforcement or media, according to American Jewish Statistic Committee statistics. So remember, whatever numbers you're seeing, multiply that by 5. Varying degrees of trauma are behind the lack of reporting, Anti-Defamation League spokesman Jack Hyman told the Times of Israel. Some people may report right away, while others may want to pretend it never happened, which would be understandable, said Hyman. An important development for universities, said Hyman, is the new campus anti-Semitism legal line, or call. For any student, family, facility, or staff member to report incidents of anti-Semitic discrimination, intimidation, harassment, vandalism, or violence that may necessitate legal action, said Hyman. Of course, we know the major universities are doing nothing with these reports, as we found out in the congressional hearings. Intake reports will be handled by lawyers who work pro bono to represent victims who choose to move forward with specific cases, said Hyman. COLE will also provide referrals and social services, mental health counseling services, and other relevant support services in their area, said the ADL spokesman. Experts told the Times of Israel that many high school pupils and college students are afraid to document harassment because it's nearly impossible to report anonymously if one wants an investigation with actual results and repercussions, said Aryel Lerman, executive director of the Sedoff Legal Department at Stand With Us, a pro-Israel educational organization. This reporter, says the reporter, looks for Stand With Us as the director of its Holocaust Education Center. Students who file discrimination or bias complaints under their name nearly inevitably become targets for ongoing harassment or social media by individuals, by anti-Israel student groups, and even in person, Lerman told the Times of Israel. The non-reporting of anti-Semitism extends beyond the student body, said Lerman. Many Jewish professionals on campus are not reporting anti-Semitic incidents because they are scared by what they see, said Lerman, an attorney who leads a Stand With Us cultivated network of lawyers willing to defend victims of anti-Semitism on campus for free. They delete evidence and hope that by not dealing with it, it will go away. The idea of holding anti-Semites accountable through the criminal justice system instead of remaining scared hasn't taken hold yet in a broad enough way, said Lerman. Just catching up in the chat room here. With social media, the evolving technologies, students and staff alike are afraid of being doxxed and targeted. Doxxed means that somebody will tell who they are, where they live, how to get a hold of them, and so on and so forth. Will be doxxed and targeted for more harassment by being willing to come forward as witnessing anti-Semitic attacks. The Israeli-American Council, the IAC, pointed to shame as one of the reasons why so many American Jews do not report anti-Semitism. We know this because when we do receive reports of anti-Semitic incidents, many times students and parents will indicate that they have experienced several other incidents before deciding to report, said Karen Baron of IAC's IAC's Vice President of Activism. Also, when we discuss the topic of community members or provide anti-Semitism training to educators and students through our school or community events, they will bring up cases they have experienced while admitting they had not reported them. Bar-On told the Times of Israel. Actually, IHC's combating, or their anti-Semitism training is actually pretty good. I actually attended it a number of years ago. Founded in 2007, the IAC represents more than 800,000 Israelis and their families living in the U.S., Bar-On echoed Attorney Lehman in asking Jews to reconsider the importance of reporting anti-Semitic harassment as opposed to brushing it off. First and foremost, we need to let people know how to report and constantly remind them what resources are at their service, said Bar-On. More importantly, community members must understand the importance of reporting and standing up to each and every incident they experience, no matter how minor they may feel it is, she said. According to data collected by the American Jewish Committee, in 2021, 79% of American Jews targeted by anti-Semitic remarks did not report the incidents, said Aharon Bergman, IAJC's Director of High School Affairs. Many high school students who face anti-Semitism, discrimination, or bias choose not to report these incidents, fearing social retaliation and potential isolation, said Bergman. Another factor involves in underreporting is that students may not be certain whether they have experienced discrimination or may underestimate the severity of the issue, said Bergman, adding, some students may also struggle to recognize and define anti-Semitic actions, hindering their ability to report accurately. Bergman told the Times of Israel that uncertainty around discrimination often stems from the perception that Jewish students' experiences do not compare to the discrimination faced by their peers, he said. Several experts pointed to microaggressions. I'm just going to blow that one off. I mean, I ain't buying microaggressions. If you're looking that deep for somebody to be aggressing you, then you've got bigger issues. Okay, so let's just skip that one altogether. Additionally, students may assume they have to document an incident when procedurally they haven't. Students think they have to report something when they comment on it in an institutional survey, but that reporting does not get shared with the system that tracks or even do anything about anti-Semitism on campus, which we found out in the congressional hearings. Said former Hillel professional who asked to remain anonymous due to her position in academia. Imagine that. Across the Atlantic and Britain, a large proportion of anti-Semitic incidents in public schools and universities campuses are never reported, said David Rich of the Community Service Trust, which has recorded and responded to anti-Semitism since 1984. The most likely reason for not reporting are they don't feel anything will be done, or they don't know how to report it. I'm going to say that they probably have a very good reason for feeling that nothing will be done because nothing has been done. Within Europe, the European Union has conducted research into anti-Semitism in 2012 and 2018. Findings demonstrated that most anti-Semitic harassment was not reported to anyone. We don't have specific data for it. Pardon?
It's out of fear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's out of fear, or it's just out of the fact that, they don't think anybody's going to do anything about it. You just heard Rabbi Wyckoff just said that they got a death threat. Did they report it? Probably not. I mean, I've received death threats myself. I basically tell them, okay, pack a lunch and bring friends. You're going to need them. So anyway,
And some body bags.
yeah, bring body bags. You're going to need them. Okay, we don't have specific data on non-reporting of campuses or schools related to anti-Semitism, but this gives some indications of what we might be looking at, said Rich. With private Catholic universities and the U.S. now opening their doors to enroll harassed Jewish students, the public is still only seeing the tip of the iceberg regarding anti-Semitism, experts believe. Without a significant increase in victims reporting on incidents of harassment, discrimination against Jews, many continue to fly mostly under the radar. And nobody reports it anyway. So, I mean, the mainstream media. And they'll give it a, if it's horrendous enough, they'll give it a little bit of airtime. But, basically, it's there for 5 minutes and then it's gone.
I feel like it's gonna get worse than 1939. I don't know.
I know Holocaust survivors that have told me we've seen this before.
Yeah, nobody listened.
Yeah, and they're scared. They're scared, and they have a good right to be scared. Okay, so we ran a little bit over tonight, but I think it was worth it. I think you're getting a good idea of what is and what is not being reported, and how the incidents are just getting bigger and bigger all the time. And as Rabbi Ancel just said, looks like it will probably get worse before it gets better.
I didn't know you were threatened.
Oh yeah, for me it's not a big deal. I get threats all the time. I mean, you got to remember, I was Gotti's co-host for a number of years, so I got used to it. I mean, how these guys gonna know where I am? They're paper warriors. They can shoot their mouth off on Facebook and in emails and stuff like that, but when it comes right down to it, they're not going to do anything. I mean, if it was really a serious threat, I would report it.
Or invite them over.
Well, I told them, yeah. Come on over. Pack a
your
lunch
body
and
bag
bring
with you.
friends. You're going to need them. Okay. So anyway, I mean, we got to get past the days of the Jew walking around with his head bowed, afraid to say anything to anyone, and reclaim, our ancient history. We were warriors. We were feared in the Middle East. Nobody
We
messed with
outlived
Israel.
everybody.
Pardon?
We outlived every empire
Yep.
that was ever in the world.
Okay,
And
so
big one.
okay, so tomorrow night is the Torah study with yours truly and Rabbi Ancel. Again, Parsha Vayigash. And Friday night at 8 p.m. Eastern is Kabbalat Ma'ariv Shabbat service. Shabbat morning at 10 a.m. Shachrit and Musaf. And then on Monday, Zeta's Story Corner will not be on Monday. Zeta's Story Corner is going to go on hiatus for a few weeks. We need to find more stories. And as a matter of fact, I am working on a new book, which I've been working on for a while, but I'm getting closer to finishing it, and I want to have the time to actually finish the book, hopefully to get it out this summer. So Zeta Story Corner is going to be going on hiatus while we build him a puppet theater to make a better broadcast. And we'll return a month, maybe a month, with all new stories and stuff like that. And then again, right back here on next Tuesday for the Rabbis Discuss, and more news from the front in Israel, and some more facts and figures that you're probably not getting.
Us.
Pardon?
Let's get Rabbi Wyckoff joining us.
Yes. Yeah, let's, I'll get, again, we come on at a time where he is actually still working. So when he disappears, I'm not really surprised. I told him before, if you got to go, you got to go. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's not like we can't carry on without him. I'm good at running my mouth. I've been doing it for a long time. So, okay. So we're going to close it out for tonight. Rabbi Ancel, I'm going to turn you down. And hope to see you tomorrow night for the Torah study. And until then, we're simply going to say, watch your six, which means walk at your back, and keep your head on a swivel, and be careful, and Laila Tov.